Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kim Jacobs Show. As you can see, I have Mr. Silas Farley here on today's episode. Hello, Silas.
Thank you so much for having me, Kim.
Thank you so much for being on. Thank you so much for Linda for making this happen, your lovely mother. I want to just give everyone that's coming into today's studio audience an opportunity to share today's broadcast with your friends, your coworkers, your friends, anybody. Just go ahead and just share today's broadcast because we are in for a treat. You're going to learn so much about this wonderful vessel. You know what, I looked into ballet and how to dress for ballet. And I'll go ahead and say this right up front. It said you really need to dress the way you feel, the way it makes you feel. And so I was trying to think of something very bright and effervescent and but still uh, regal and elegant and just glitzy and glamorous. I feel so special when I watch your pieces. And I know we haven't even started the interview, but I feel like I'm going somewhere out of body experience is what I really feel.
Well,
So
thank you so much for
it's
that.
this is wonderful. It's wonderful. So I hope I'm dressing how I feel.
I love that. I love
So we are going to go ahead and get started with today's show. By now, you know the process. If you would like to be brought into the broadcast and say something directly to Silas, then I'm going to share the link with you. And when we do our flash round, you'll be able to get popped in. Keeping all of the comments positive and uplifting. If anything is said, I'll pop you right out. We know that. But I definitely will allow you to come in and say something. Or you can also type your comments. Your comments will be posted, and Silas will get a chance to see those. Give encouraging words. Definitely ask your questions, and he'll see that during the flash round. So those are just some of the housekeeping announcements. We're going to go ahead and jump right into today's show. Silas Farley is a dancer. Now, I should have asked you, Silas, before about the proper pronunciation of a few things, but
It's okay. No worries.
oh boy, I hope I don't botch it up for Linda. Oh well, here we go. Silas Farley is a dancer, teacher, and choreographer. He is taught nationally and internationally, including for the School of American Ballet, New York City Ballet, Ballet Slovak, National Ballet, the Peabody Conservatory, and the Kennedy Center. He has choreographed for SAB, the New York Choreographic Institute, Ballet Academy East, and Columbia Ballet Collaborative at Columbia University. It's a whole lot to his story, and I don't really want to go into every detail of the story because then you're going to miss hearing it from him. But I will tell you that in the summer of 2017, that he served as the choreographer for the Practicing Silence workshop at Grace Farms Foundation in New Canaan, Connecticut. For this, he collaborated with poet I was saying it correct?
Ilya Kaminsky.
Ilya Kaminsky on a ballet adaptation of Kaminsky's National Book Award-winning work, Deaf Republic. In the fall of 2017, Mr. Farley was commissioned by Met Live Arts. Oh, that's incredible. To create a new site-specific ballet entitled Songs from the Spirit. And we have some of that as well, which premiered in March of 2019 at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. There are no words to describe how wonderful and how vast his career has been. But I want to, instead of reading it, I want you to hear from him directly more about his journey. So welcome, Silas Farley.
Thank you so much.
And I cut the bio short on purpose because I want you to hear directly from him, a young man that at the age of 6 years old, you found out that you had a passion just by a performance coming through town, coming to your local church. Tell us how that began for you and what that journey looked like from a very early age.
Yes. So I'm a native of Charlotte, North Carolina. I grew up in the Mary Oaks neighborhood, and I'm the youngest of 7 children. And my family was really involved at that time in my life at a church called Resurrection Church. then was called Resurrection Lutheran Church. And there was a big liturgical dance ministry at that particular church, so that there was dance as part of the Sunday morning worship. And there would also be special performances throughout the year for the dance ministry. And that was how I first saw ballet, because the dance ministry invited a ballet company from Jackson, Mississippi called Ballet Magnificat to come perform at the church. They did a Saturday evening performance, and they also performed a dance in the context of the Sunday morning worship service. And that was the first time that I saw formal classical ballet, and I was mesmerized. And I couldn't have articulated exactly what captured me in that first moment of seeing ballet. But as I look back on it, I think I was really impacted by the power and the poetry of the male dancers very specifically, because the male ballet dancer is this beautiful mix of athleticism and artistry, sensitivity and strength. And I like to say power and poetry. And that really captured my little heart at 6 years old. And all my siblings were very athletic.
Oh, yeah.
Very athletic. And so my mom said I was everything performing arts rolled into one person. And she then sought how she could encourage me. She and dad together sought together how they could encourage me to develop this passion that I obviously had from a young age.
Wow. Well, it's interesting that you talk about your family dynamics, because a lot of my show, I focus on different aspects from balance as well. And so everyone watching, in some regard, this is going to help them from a balance perspective. And so you have come from a family of basically 9 people living together in one house at one time, right?
Yes.
And now, how is it that your mom and your dad even get the opportunity to notice what specific talent you have amongst all 7 of your siblings? How do they cultivate that? So we're going to really hone in on this talent.
Yes. Well, my parents both have very, very strong faith in Jesus. And so they are united spiritually. And they both felt that from the very beginning of their marriage, that the great work that they had to do was to raise these children together. And so they prayed very specifically about what our names would be. And they prayed very specifically that God would give us giftings and opportunities to flourish in those different giftings. And they were very attuned and prayerfully attentive to each of us 7 children, and knowing that each of us would be distinct, that each of us would have different challenges and different giftings. And then they did everything that they could to allow each of us to develop those different gifts. Because there were 7 of us, mom and dad always said that you had to pick one thing. And as long as it was legal, that they would support us in it 100%. Because there were 7 children, it was not possible for each child to do Boy Scouts and ballet and karate and this or that. So at any given time, we could choose one thing. And they gave us the permission and the support to pursue that wholeheartedly. And if that were to switch at any given time, they of course would allow us to switch. If it was one sport to another, several of my siblings really excelled in a range of sports. But for me, I was very single-minded, very devoted to dance from the start. They saw that, and then they put the wind at my back from the beginning to be able to do that.
I love this. I love it. I'm sure you've had lots of interviews, because I've seen all of them. I've done my due diligence. But this particular one, I'm going to go ahead and put it up here. I'm definitely going to say this right here, exclusive on the Kim Jacobs Show. I am learning. Kim Jacobs is learning about your true backstory.
Yeah.
And
that's part of it is mom and dad. It's the faith of Mark and Felinda Farley, their love for each other, their devotion to the Lord, and their commitment to raising their children in a way that would honor God and that would also release the unique capacity and potential of each of their children. That's the story for sure.
I'm typing this. Love God. I'm just
a range of different things. I mean, I have a brother who plays for the New York Jets, Matthias Farley. I have a sister who's very high up in the leadership of Gallo Wines and helped start the Gallo African American Network. I have a brother who works in sales, and a sister in real estate, and a brother who's a beautiful painter. So there's all of these different kinds of talents that my parents very systematically, but also very gently cultivated in each of us. There was never anything forceful. There was never, oh, this is what I did as your mother, so that's what you need to do. Or any of, this is what I did as your father, this is what you needed to do. There was none of that. There was a real understanding that we were distinct and that we needed to be supported in very precise, personalized ways.
That's really a great tribute. Even if the show ended on that note, I think your mom and dad would feel like you gave them their flowers while they were living. So that's a beautiful tribute that you just shared. Wow. I know you're so proud, Felinda and Mark. I'm proud for you. And I've had the opportunity to just learn about each of your children. And so to see how God says that your children will be your blessing. Our seeds are our blessings. And you have been a blessing along with all of your siblings to your parents in different ways. But all of you, like you said, you have different gifts and different talents. And no two are alike. Right. So I know one person asked me, make sure I ask this question. Girls are called ballerinas. What are guys called? I have to get that question in.
We're just dancers. Dancers. There's an old French term for a male dancer, which is a danseur, but we don't really use that term in the US. You're just a dancer.
Okay, I hope I answered that question, because I know that was Skylar that asked that. She's probably like, please, we call her Lady Skylar. She's only 8, but she's like, please ask him, what is a ballerina versus a male dancer? That's so good, good. So after seeing your first performance at the age of 6, I really want to know how you can encourage other people that have young children. And young children, they see something that just kind of tugs at their heart and says that, oh my gosh, this is what I think I want to do. Like me, as a teenager, I realized that I wanted to do talk show because I saw Oprah and Phil Donahue. What can you say or to encourage a mom or dad or even a child that may be watching to really pursue that passion that they really get that initial tug from?
Yeah, I think the importance of community can't be overstated, because my parents saw that I had this gifting for dance. We were part of a Christian community that had a vibrant dance ministry, but they knew that I needed even more training than that. So at that time, we were at a church called Christ Covenant, which is out in Matthews. And my mom went to one of her dear friends, a mentor of hers in the church, an older woman named Lydia Weems. And mom asked Lydia, what could I do to support Silas in his artistry? Because I have all these sports sons, but we don't know what quite to do with Silas. And Lydia encouraged my mom to send me to a school called King David Christian Conservatory, which is located now out by the Crown Point movie theater. And at that time, it was located in Matthews. And so my mom took me, and I had an audition with the directors there, Sal and Barbara, and that's how my training began. But the lesson in that, I think, is that to reach out to people that you know, to gain wisdom and perspective from your community as to what insights they might have about dance, even if you as an individual parent or parents may not know how to cultivate a dancer, but to ask the people around you. If you're in a faith community, ask the people around you that you love to pray with you, to find direction as to how to pursue this passion with and for your child. And then I think with that, to just encourage the student, the young person, in whatever their passion is. Because dance, like sports at any high level, is grueling, and it requires tenacity, and it requires long-range vision and persistence. And so to sustain you in that, you need a lot of encouragement. So I would say, reach out to your local community. If you're a person of faith, have the people that you love pray for direction, and then encourage those young dancers. And we're also in a wonderful time now. One of the beautiful parts of being in a technological age, or especially the coronavirus, is that so much dance is accessible online. So you can watch the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater's digital gala, and you can go on YouTube and watch the New York City Ballet or the Royal Ballet or any number of different kinds of dance styles. So to take good advantage of those media resources to be inspired and to learn about the art form. And I think it's important for parents also to educate themselves about what their child is passionate about, so that you then understand the framework and the vocabulary of what your child is interested in. So I was into ballet, and my parents really made an effort to learn about ballet, to learn about the history of ballet, to learn about the culture of ballet, so that they could understand and support me even better, just like they did for my siblings in sports, for example.
I love that. I love that. And actually with you, what you're saying is something that I've done myself. I have 5 children, and one of my sons wants to be an actor. And so I started acting with him in different regards, doing things totally out of my character. I'm like, what? I've been in audition for roles just so we could have some bonding moments. And then my daughter was dancing, so I performed in one of her performances. I was like, what am I out here doing? I was like, what in the world? But I call that like an individualized family plan.
Yes.
When you can look at each of your children and identify what it is that's their gifting and their talent. And in my book, I wrote a book called Extreme Balance Makeover. I talked about how you should customize your strategy per child. And that's exactly what your mom and dad did with the 7 of you all.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so tell us about, I need to do a flash round because my audience, they said, Kim, sometimes you go too far. And then our comment was about something that he said in the beginning. And here you are all the way. I get lots of audience feedback. Lots of audience feedback. They don't play. They're like, stop doing that.
They're engaged. I love that.
Yeah, they're technically sitting in the studio audience right now. Listen, guys, if you like these type of shows, make sure you subscribe to the Kim Jacobs Show, YouTube, and it's Daily Balance with Kim. You just subscribe there, turn on your notifications so that you can get more shows like this, and you'll get alerted when they are live. So let's go to a flash round, because we're going to do different bits and pieces of today's interview.
Super.
So let's see what some people have said already. Yeah, already lots of comments coming in. Let's see. Nathan, Silas, you are the best.
One of my dear older brothers. I have 4 older brothers, and he's the painter. So thank you, Nathan.
Hey, Nathan. Cassandra put a thumbs up for some code that I told her to tell me if something was happening. So you the man, basically. He's just putting a lot of love out to you, your brother.
Thank you, Nathan.
And my mom is on too. Good morning, Kim and Silas. Oh, I love that. I love you both, and I love your parents. Now, my mom, the funny part is that once she gets to know, my mom is in Newport News, Virginia. She officially now knows your mother. And at this point, they're probably going to be friends for life. So that's how she is, like your mom.
Just embrace people deeply.
Yeah, that's what she does, big time. So tell us now, you have gone on to New York City Ballet. Tell us about that journey.
Yeah.
Let's talk more about your professional journey for a moment.
Yeah. So from a very young age, I was interested in the history of ballet. I knew from a young age that I wanted to devote my life to dance and ballet very specifically. So from the beginning of my training, I also started reading a lot of history books, reading biographies about the lives of different choreographers and dancers and teachers. And I became fascinated with the life of this man, George Balanchine, who's considered kind of the godfather of ballet in America. He was Russian. He came to the United States in 1933, and he founded the New York City Ballet in 1948. And he helped to articulate and disseminate a really American expression of classical ballet. And so I was really interested in his choreography. And at the age of 9, I got a scholarship to attend Charlotte Ballet Academy, which at that time was called North Carolina Dance Theater.
Yeah.
One of my teachers there was a woman named Patricia McBride, and she had danced for Balanchine at the New York City Ballet from the 1950s all the way through to the 1980s. And George Balanchine created some of his masterworks for her, as did Jerome Robbins, the great ballet and Broadway choreographer who was a founding choreographer of New York York City Ballet as well. So through Patty, I had this direct connection to George Balanchine. And I remember sitting in the library, I think it was the Morrison Regional Library, looking at a ballet history book, and I saw a photograph of Patty. And in that moment, I realized that through this woman that taught me so graciously every Saturday morning, I was now directly linked to the performance tradition, the choreography, the artistic ideas of George Balanchine. And that's what planted for me this dream of going to dance with New York City Ballet like Patty had done. So the New York City Ballet is unique in that it does not hold auditions. The design of the company from the beginning was that only graduating students from the affiliate school, the School of American Ballet, or SAB, would be accepted into the company, so that you could forge a really distinct and unified technique for the dancers. And so I knew that that was step one of the dream. I had to get into SAB. So when I was 13, I auditioned for SAB up at North Carolina School of the Arts. And at the end of my audition, I was given a full scholarship on the spot by this brilliant teacher named Suki Shorer, who was one of Balanchine's disciples. And she wrote a thick textbook on Balanchine's whole approach to ballet. And she gave me my scholarship. I went to New York that summer of 2008. I was 14 by the time I got there. And 9 days into that summer course, the leadership of the school invited me to stay for the year-round training program. So I relocated. I moved to New York City at the age of 14. I just finished 7th grade. They skipped me into 9th grade for my academics at a school called the Professional Children's School, which is a really unique academic school for students that are on Broadway or in movies, or they're equestrians or models, and they need an alternate, they need an individualized family plan. They're young people who need a special academic track to facilitate their professional goals. And so I got to attend that school in addition to SAB. So I lived in a ballet boarding school at Lincoln Center from the ages of 14 till 19, actually, my 4 years of high school, and then my first year as an apprentice with New York City Ballet. So at the end of high school, I was invited to join New York City Ballet, and I was then part of these ballets that I had only watched. Part of being a student at SAB is that the students are given free tickets to see New York City Ballet perform 6 days a week. And I would go every night. And it was extraordinary artistic education to be at the ballet every night with a live symphony orchestra, reading the program notes, watching these extraordinary ballets being performed, watching new choreographers come in and refresh the art form with new choreography. And so then by the time I got in the company, I knew a lot of the dancers because they were students who had graduated just those few years ahead of me. And I got to now be part of those ballets that I had only watched up to that point. And it was a glorious ride. I got to dance with the company for 8 years, and I only just retired about a month ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this is definitely going to take a quick shift, I'm sure, because when you say retire and you're only 26 years old, that doesn't sound like something that is normal in today's society, right?
Right. Well, it's interesting because classical ballet is similar to pro baseball, for example, where a lot of people go pro right out of high school.
Right.
And so a lot of dancers will either skip college to go right into a ballet company, or what happens more often than not now is that dancers are doing college concurrently with their professional careers. So it might take them 8 years to get an undergrad degree, but there's no sense of urgency to get it because they're doing their performance career, which you can only really do to maybe 30, 35 years old because it's so taxing on your body. So a lot of my fellow dancers were doing university courses all the way through their dancing. I had decided not to. I had a goal of going to Harvard all through my high school years, and I got in on a scholarship, and I chose
scholarship.
Yeah, I chose to defer in order to join New York City Ballet when I was 18. And that deferral was only for a year, and then the Harvard people were very gracious and said, if I ever decided to reapply, that I could do that in the future. So I knew in the back of my mind that I eventually wanted to pursue that academic course. But I wanted to focus on the dancing while I was still young, while my body could really do it, and I could pour myself into that wholeheartedly. And that's really been my goal the 8 years that I was with New York City Ballet, to be fully present, to participate in a multidimensional way with the company, dancing, teaching in the company's affiliate school, choreographing new works using my fellow dancers. I started a podcast for New York City Ballet, which I'll continue to host even now in my new phase of life. And I've done a lot of lectures and teaching ballet history for both New York City Ballet and its affiliate school. I'm happy I can continue with a lot of that, but it's only now that I feel I'm ready to give myself fully to that more academic and artistic administrative training that I know I'll want to have for the long haul. So it's a profession that you join early in life and that you retire from early.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions too. Is how long is the career of a professional ballet dancer?
Most start around 18 and then are finished by maybe 30 or 35.
So you're not too far off from when it would be realistic for you to bring this whole career to a close.
Right. I mean, I've done it almost 10 years. I did 8 years as a professional dancer. I got to dance in the corps de ballet. I danced soloist roles with the New York City Ballet and principal roles. And those terms are just to describe the different tiers of participation in a ballet company. So it's like the difference between like the first string quarterback and the second string quarterback.
Right. That's Matthias over there talking now.
Right, exactly. So there's these different tiers of participation. And even though I was in the corps de ballet, which is the ensemble, there's a lot of mobility within the ballets that are performed at New York City Ballet for dancers who are in the corps, the ensemble, to get to dance featured parts. And I was one of those corps dancers who was fortunate to get to dance a lot of featured roles. So I got a taste of what it was like to be a principal dancer, even without having that actual rank. And so I could, with a clear conscience, be able to set aside my performance career because I was really able to fulfill what I had hoped to accomplish as a performer in the 8 years that I danced with the company.
Wow. Okay. This is incredible. So, I guess I'll definitely will let you off the hook about the retirement question, which is, why you're at the peak of your career, you're at the height, and we all want to see more. And I was gonna, go down that road, but since you've already kind of
respond to that a little bit too, which is that the New York City Ballet is a huge company. I'm one of 100 dancers. And there are in order to excel as a ballet dancer, it has to be your everything. And I was able to give it my everything for these 8 years.
Right.
Now I have the desire to develop other parts of myself. And so it's appropriate for me to then step out of the performing so that those for whom it is still their everything can have those opportunities.
That's really good.
So that's really great. I feel good. I also feel that I'm able to use my dancing because I still feel very much that I'm at the height of my powers as a dancer. I feel like I can use that to demonstrate to the students that I teach and to show the people that I'm choreographing on what I'd like them to do. So I'll keep dancing till I can't. So I'm going to keep dancing. My body will keep going till I drop. But I'll keep demonstrating and choreographing and using my capacity as a dancer now more as illustration instead of performance.
Good. Well, I have a quote here from something that I read, and we're going to talk about this big article too, but you said that you knew from the beginning that you wanted to be a dancer, teacher, choreographer, and a ballet master and a scholar.
Yeah.
So that's something that is all kind of coming together for you now. Yeah. And for all of you and you can hold your paper up today, please. For all of you, I'm going to post this. Put it in the screen. Silas Farley is featured today in the New York Times. So make sure you get a copy, and I'm going to put the link for you to be able to read this article. It's a full, it's a whole, describe where it is, because it's right on the front cover.
It's the cover of the arts page. And it's it's the cover of the arts page of today's New York Times. Oh. And there's another page on the 5th page of the arts page. That's also another full page of photos, and the story continues. So it's a real honor to have that opportunity to be profiled in this particular way.
Make sure you get your copy, because my mom was like, Kim, I know one thing, make sure you give me a copy. So after don't worry, I have it electronically, but I'll figure out to get the hard copy.
Yeah.
But that is such what did that mean for you to receive that honor to be featured today? What did that mean to you?
It was very sweet because the author, Gia Corliss, She is now the chief dance critic of the New York Times. And I first met her 11 years ago when she wrote a story about the choreography workshop at the School of American Ballet. I was 15 at the time, and she interviewed me because I was part of that workshop in a particular way. And then she has, I guess on her own volition, really tracked my whole progress as a dancer. So she wrote a piece on me in Vogue when I joined New York City Ballet. And she wrote some really wonderful, encouraging reviews throughout my time as a dancer. And she wrote an article about my teaching when I began teaching as a teenager at the school in New York. And so it was a tremendous honor, but in a very sweet way. It was also the continuation of this kind of journalistic relationship that Gia has cultivated with me for the past 11 years. Mm-hmm. So it was like a beautiful next stone in the path that she's been building, documenting my career in some ways, and then also just the almost friendship that we've been able to cultivate through the years too.
That is incredible.
And then the photographer, her name's Kennedy Carter, and she's based in Durham, a beautiful, wonderful, visionary young artist. And she came to Charlotte to do the photos the other day. And it was just a delight to meet Kennedy. And I'm just thrilled that for her, that she gets her photo as the cover of the arts page in the New York Times. That's just huge. So Kennedy Carter, very, very excited for her.
Congratulations, Gia and Kennedy, on outstanding work that you've done, and this is noteworthy of at every level. Again, Silas is very modest. Just so that I put this in perspective, this man is. It's like he's floating in the air, and he's just having some supernatural out-of-body experience that God has gifted him with. But then when you get the opportunity to speak with him like we are today, he's so humble and so modest. And that you've accomplished things that people would only dream of, that they could never even achieve, even no matter how much work and effort they put towards it. How does that make you feel, Silas?
You know, I think of it, there's a passage in the Bible that says, to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all that we can ask or imagine. And I feel like that's what my whole life has been. And that combined with another teaching of Jesus where he says that to whom much is given, much is required. And that those were really foundational lessons in the household that I grew up in. And so we were from a family that didn't have a lot by way of financial resources, but we had every spiritual kind of wealth. And so we had this understanding as Farley children that we had been given these gifts and opportunities, and that it was then our responsibility and privilege to give ourselves totally to what we were doing, in full view of the fact, like you just said, Kim, that plenty of people have the talents, but may not ever have the opportunities to develop them. And so I never took for granted that, yes, I had a passion for ballet, and then I had parents who encouraged me in it. And then I had former New York City ballet dancers here in Charlotte that taught me. And then I had people that believed in me as a choreographer for a young age. And then I was able to start teaching from a young age. And so there's this whole tapestry of people who have made it possible for me to have the opportunities that I have, so that I cannot sit here and say, look what I have done. Because it's not true. It doesn't undermine that I've worked very diligently every day, that I've done the sweat and I've done the work every day and will continue to. But even with a great work ethic, there has to be the opportunity, and there have to be the people that put the wind at your back. And I've had both. So I'm a grateful person, and I can only hope that I will be able to continue to steward the gifts that God's given me, and steward the opportunities that have been entrusted to me, and to honor the people that have helped me get here. And I think if you talk to any of my 6 siblings in all the ways that they have excelled in their work, that they would echo the same.
You all literally sound like I promise, like robots. All of you guys sound the exact same. That's impossible. If no matter which Farley child you talk to, this is what they sound like. And they are super incredible human beings. They're not your average Joe kind of people. And they are all humble to the core of their existence. So a whole tapestry of people that have helped Silas Farley, as well as all of his siblings, become that gifted young individuals that they are today. And as a result, he's a very grateful individual. So I'm going to go to a few more audience comments, because if I don't get all of my studio audience comments in, they're mad. Humility is a secret to success in so many ways, Allison Skeet says. It's fantastic having your legacy documented so early in your life for your achievements to be an inspiration to many who eagerly want examples to reassure them to keep on working on their dreams. Any comments? You're more than welcome to chat. Humbling scripture and a humbling response, Pamela Howard says. Outstanding, young man. Continued success on your journey, sir.
Thank you.
And I put the article so you all can click on that after the show. Don't click now. After the show, you can definitely go and read the full article, and it'll bring you more into his life and his journey. And let's see. Oh my God, he looks like his dad. Oh my God, he looks like his dad. Hello, Kim and Silas. Hi, Pam. How are you? Let's see, one more comment, and then we're going to go to amazing young man, and so blessed to know your parents and having had the opportunity to know of you and your journey through your parents during your transition and your move. Katrina Womack. All right. Speaking of your move, you are getting ready to make a move from New York City Ballet. I'm trying to get everything in an hour, but this 6-year-old that started in this world that went to go live on his own at 14 and then had these wonderful parents and these wonderful siblings, something, trying to get it all in. How do you go from New York City Ballet to now doing your artist in residence in ballet and the dance at Meadows School of the Arts at Southern Methodist University for 2020 to 2021 school year? Tell us about that.
Well, this all ties into my wife, Cassia. We first met in the summer of 2008 at the School of American Ballet, and she has been my rock and my greatest encourager and advocate and muse. She's my inspiration in so many ways. And she's from Dallas. So I've been building a relationship with several of the ballet organizations in Dallas for the past few years. Her younger sister, Eliza, is a wonderful dancer and a recent graduate of the Meadows School of the Arts at SMU in Dallas. And so I was able to guest teach at SMU the past 3 years and built a great relationship with the leadership there. And so Cassia and I were thinking and praying, even before coronavirus happened, we were thinking and praying about what our next steps would be. And we both felt that I had fulfilled what I had sought to accomplish as a professional dancer, as a performer in ballet. And we both felt that it was now time to devote myself and devote our marriage to a new dimension of development. Education, artistic leadership training. And my hope is to become the artistic director of a ballet company or to be some kind of leader in the art of ballet. And I know I need more academic and leadership training tools to do that. So Cassia was just asking me, just in her very gracious and winsome way, about earlier in March, as to what I was feeling about next steps. And then through those conversations that she so effortlessly catalyzed, we then sought counsel. It's like it was us now doing what our parents did for us. We sought counsel from our community. We asked the people that we knew and loved for us to pray for us. We had these people that encouraged us to move forward with this next step. And there was such a unity among our counselors, both sets of parents. Cassia's parents, Derek and Russell, are extraordinary people, and they have been wind at our backs also. So mom and dad, Derek and Russell Ann, talking with our pastor from New York City, David Bisgrove, and also with a dear mentor named Lorene Clark in New York. And all of these people, this tapestry of relationships, were all saying, this is the time, go into this new season. So through Eliza, my sister-in-law, I was able to make a connection with the chair of dance at Southern Methodist University. And through a wonderful series of events and connections and relationships, a brand new role was created in the Faculty of Dance at Southern Methodist University through an extraordinary donation from some supporters of the university, Liz and Bill Armstrong, who are both big supporters of the School of American Ballet in New York. And they funded a brand new position. the Meadows School of the Arts appointed me to that position, and it was this perfect fit for me to be able to bow from my performing career and then step into this more full-time teaching and choreography work at SMU. And so we're thrilled. Cassia's family is in Dallas. We're going to be living with her parents for at least the next year, and then we'll see what happens beyond that. But we're so grateful that we have this thick family support system. So we're here in Charlotte right now, staying with my parents, and then we'll go back to Dallas for at least the next year, staying with Cassia's parents and her little brother Eli and her little brother Heston. And so we've got a great support system there as we step into this new chapter in Dallas.
I am so glad that you answered this on the Kim Jacobs Show, because so many people have that question and they want to know what's happening. Why is he retiring?
Yeah,
doing this. You know, people, now you've heard. Let me go back. I got to put this comment again. Now you know exclusively on the Kim Jacobs Show that Silas Farley is leaving out on a very high note.
Very much so.
He's going to pursue further goals and dreams and passions to kind of pull everything together, ranging from choreography, filmmaking, all kinds of different things, to being a scholar, to being a teacher, and to being able to get even more brownie points with Cassia, his wife. You can see how he put a lot of brownie points on the screen.
I always talk about her. She's right.
Which is a great thing. So speaking of Cassia, let's talk for a second about how is this going to impact her, because she dances. So what's going to happen with her?
So Cassia retired from her full-time dance career shortly before we got married. She danced with Nashville Ballet in Tennessee, and she also danced with Ballet Austin, a wonderful company in Texas. And she has always kept her dancing as a tool that if God ever asked us to do a project, she always has it available to use. So when I choreographed for the Grace Farms Foundation in Connecticut for that adaptation of Ilya Kaminsky's Deaf Republic, Cassia danced with me. When the Met Museum asked me to make a ballet for them, Cassia danced with me. And so as different projects emerge going forward, she very well may participate in those with me. And then she has all of her own passions too, creative writing and art. And there are some possibilities for her to continue cultivating those in even more meaningful ways in Dallas than we were able to do in New York. And we're very much collaborators. So every new project that I undertake, whether it's a dance film or a writing project or choreography, is very much a shared enterprise. She's always helping. She's my editor-in-chief, and she is my advocate-in-chief, and she's my encourager-in-chief. And we are that for each other. And so I'm excited to see how, having stepped out of the full-time dancing rigor of New York City Ballet, that we as a married couple will be able to take on different kinds of projects that we can more meaningfully share than what I was able to do as a dancer, just dancing as myself in New York City Ballet. So there's a lot of wonderful possibilities for us to work together in this new season of life.
Oh, I'm excited about the future and what it holds for the Farley, the Cassia and Silas Farley team. So this is going to be, make sure you come back on the Kim Jacobs Show as new things happen, because I don't want to only see it on the New York Times.
Right, okay? Right.
Let me also find out, because I mean, we've talked about quite a bit, but and I think what I'm going to do is with the video, I'm going to let us end on that note where people will be able to see your digital premiere and Songs of the Spirit. I'm excited about being able to share a piece of that Songs from the Spirit with Silas Farley. And I'm going to be sharing that with you all, and you'll be able to see the full video on YouTube, and I'll share that link with you as well. But I want to, with all that's been happening in society right now, and we talked a little bit backstage about this, because I don't like to just thrust stuff into people's laps, but I want to know your take on all of the protesting and things that's happening. I saw in the New York Times that you say you have a different way of expressing your how you artistically. So talk about that. How do you express yourself with all that's happening?
Right. So I'm from a really unique family. My father, Mark, is white. My mother, Felinda, is Black. So we've grown up at the very intersection of the whole discussion about race in the United States. And their love for each other is something so beautiful and something so powerful. And that's their love is the context in which we grew up. And so that's given us a unique perspective as the Farley children about all the different racial dynamics in the country. And so to be where we are in this particular moment where there is such sorrow and there is such anger and there justifiable anger, and there is such also, I think, a sense of hope that at this juncture, maybe something will be different. And I think that the direct action is critical. I think that the protesting is very important. For me, I found that my contribution to the cause of justice is being a Black man in the art of classical ballet. There's a wonderful writer about dance, Teresa Ruth Howard. She's a former dancer with the Dance Theater of Harlem. She has a wonderful website that I encourage all of you to go to called Memoirs of Blacks in Ballet, where she's taken it upon herself to document the contribution of Black dancers to the history of this historically white classical art form. And she says that for a Black person to even be involved in classical ballet is an incredible advancement in the cause of justice. So I know that there's that just by my being who I am in this art form, that's part of the arc of history that bends towards justice. And I think very specifically that we need works of art that help us to reflect on what's happening. And I think the mission of art is at least two-pronged. One is that art can hold the mirror up to nature, that Shakespeare says in Hamlet, where the art reflects something about the times in which we live. But then there's another dimension of artwork where I like to say it prophetically prefigures what could be. And we can all think of moments through history where a great work of art has catalyzed some kind of social change, or where a great work of art has stirred people's hearts or softened people's hearts at a particularly divisive time. And so it's my hope to make artworks that do both of those things, that they do reflect to a degree what's happening, but then they can also be a vision of hope of what we're actually trying to get to, which is a community of multi-ethnic flourishing. I grew up in a house that was a place of multi-ethnic flourishing. And my wife is white, so our home is a home of multi-ethnic flourishing. Her family is white, and they've adopted a little boy, Eli, who looks like he could be Cassia's and my son. He's Black. And so I've grown up in a family that by the grace of God has been able to be at the very front lines of that work of working towards multi-ethnic flourishing. And I hope that the artwork that I make, some of the dance films that I'm working on right now, one of which I can't talk about just yet, but you'll know when it's out, it'll be very public very soon. And that is a direct response to what's happening now that I hope reflects what's happening and also provides a moment for people to reflect on what's happening and also shows a vision for the beauty of what can be in this arc of history that bends towards justice.
That is so, I mean, that's so well stated. I feel like I'm in some type of, I don't want to say Lifetime movie, but some type of based on a true story, but it's not a bad story. It's a story that ends with just such a beautiful love story. You know, sometimes you have these movies and they're all like, and it's really negative and bad vibes. Yeah. Your story is so uplifting and so edifying, and it just makes the world want to be a better place. Just based on even just your emotions, even when you're speaking and when you're talking about Cassia, Eliza, your family, your everybody. Who wouldn't want to experience Silas Farley as a result of you? I mean, I know the New York Times and the people that have followed you, that's wonderful. And I definitely don't downplay anything that they're sharing, but written versus here, there's no comparison. Now I'm probably going to be up where they're going to be like, well, how dare you compare yourself to the New York Times?
It's all good. We need lots of different outlets and lots of different.
Yes. Coming on today has just been a blessing and a tremendous joy is really the best wording I could say. Let's see, a couple more people said comments, and I don't want to delete the hi, fantastic. Like, okay, said that. Humility, we talked about that. Very grateful to know your parents. Kishka Carr says, hi, Silas. It's so cool that you are on the Kim Jacobs Show. You are such a cool, positive person. Thank you so much for your prayer for my son. I'm your mom's hairstylist. See, now if I would have missed that comment, that would not have been good. Ruth Kent said, blessed to know you and to have celebrated all of your life adventures with and through your dear mother and your cheerleader. So lots of comments still coming in. Maybe your mom can pull her page up and let you see some of them. Hi, Felinda and Nathan Farley. I know you guys are so proud of your baby. She's talking about Mark. Okay. Awesome, awesome. Pamela Howard said, Silas is the type of Black male role model for our future to model after their own journey. I love it. Derek Williams, who's a co-founder of the Dance Theater in Harlem, has shared his experience as a Black dancer with me over the years. He's been at Jena Spear in Germany for the last 8 or 9 years. We often don't get to hear the voices of those in the arts. So thank you so much, Silas. Okay, so those were some of my studio audience comments, and thank you all for taking a moment to be a part of today's studio audience. And thank you, Silas, for being on today's episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. Are there any closing comments or words of encouragement that you like to just say? I think you've said so many wonderful things, but is there anything, get that thought in your mind, because I want to say one thing to my audience, and then I'm going to let you say something, and then I'm going to play us out with your piece. So before Silas closes us out, at noon, we have a prayer line from 12 to 12:30, 978-990-5000. Access code is 322083#. Pastor Jacobs prays for people that are dealing with all of these COVID-related issues, people that are in isolation, away from their families and friends, and some people are passing away and their loved ones aren't even able to be there to hold them in their last hours. Prayer is needed during these times. So know that you can join the prayer line and hear the prayer that's going forward. And I encourage you to continue to be a part of the Kim Jacobs Show. Tomorrow, I have a musical guest that's going to be on, Mark Reddick, and he is actually a part of this whole Black Music Month. He'll be performing tomorrow as well, so make sure you check that out. And then on Friday, I have another Dr. Damon Silas will be on, and he's going to be talking about mental health awareness for the African-American males. So please make sure you tune in tomorrow and on Friday for the Kim Jacobs Show. I'll also put ways that you can support the show, and I'll put that in here for you in your link, so you'll know how to be able to support the Kim Jacobs Show. But most importantly, just subscribe to the show. And if you could do that, that will help me be able to provide continued content like this. So, Silas, is there any final closing comments that you would like to share? And I want to put your contact information up again before we go to your piece.
Sure. Well, I'll say a brief word, and then I'll also just set up the clip that you're about to see too. I would say one of my great passions is encouragement, encouraging other people. I'm part of an art form that's very rigorous and also very critical. And it's important for people to hear how they can keep growing in their work. It's important for people to receive correction and admonition so they can grow. But it's also important for people to hear what they're doing well. And it's important for people to know what is praiseworthy in the work that they're doing, in the ways that they're relating to other people. So in whatever opportunities you have, I would encourage you to encourage others. And then to set up the clip that you're about to see, this is a short excerpt from the ballet Songs from the Spirit that I choreographed at the Metropolitan Museum of Art last year. The music for this section is the traditional He's Got the Whole World in His Hands. It's sung by a tenor named Robert May and a soprano named Kelly Griffin. And the dancers include me, my wife Cassia, her sister Eliza, a few of my colleagues from the New York City Ballet, Claire Kretschmar, Rachel Hutzel, and Taylor Stanley, and then also a brilliant dancer and scientist, James Shee. And I hope that both in the content of this choreography and in the ethnicities that make up the cast and in the spirit of the music itself, that you'll get a vision for that multi-ethnic flourishing that we talked about earlier. Thank you.
Silas, thank you so much for being my guest today on the Kim Jacobs Show. People will still be able to see you right now, but I am going to play us out by playing this beautiful piece from the digital premiere, Silas Farley, Songs from the Spirit. I hope that you've enjoyed today's episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. Please tune in tomorrow at 11 o'clock a.m. and I'm going to let you hear this and see this beautiful piece. God bless you all. Uh-oh.
We're modern family dental care, but we're also for the modern family.
So skip the ad. They're trying to get an ad in there. Wait a minute. Give me 1 second, everybody. We're going to figure this out. There it is. Oh, give me a second. Oh, you have to go and see all of this, but we want you to specifically see this piece. But you literally need to go and take a moment. I've watched it in its entirety, and your life will not be the same after seeing. So this is the tail end, getting ready to go into the piece.
He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the wind and the rain in his hands. He's got the wind and the rain in his hands. He's got the wind and the rain in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the fish of the sea in his hands. He's got the fish of the sea in his hands. He's got the fish of the sea in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the sinner man in his hands. He's got the sinner man in his hands. He's got the sinner man in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
He's got you and me, brother, in his hands.
He's got you and me, sister, in his hands.
He's got you and me, brother,
sister,
in his hands.
He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got everybody here
There you have it. What a beautiful performance. And thank you again for tuning in to this edition of the Kim Jacobs Show. Thank you, Silas, for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me.
God bless you all. See you tomorrow at 11 a.m.